Hello, one and all beautiful souls. This is Liz Grace Christie. Thank you for tuning into my channel, Galactic Mythology, and you are listening to the Weekend Goddess Report for March 28th through March 31st. We are in the last weekend of March, and we are in a weekend where the sun is in the sign of Aries and going to be meeting up with the moon very soon. And this new moon is very special because it is also a partial solar eclipse. The moon will come to block out a partial segment of the sun's light, meaning there will be an abnormal amount of darkness during a time when it is supposed to be light. Now, not everyone will be able to visibly see this darkness that will be covering up the sun on March 28th into March 29th, depending on where you are on the globe. It will be visible to some in New York as they are waking up to see the sunrise. They will catch a glimmer of this, but it will really be more visible to our friends in Eastern Canada. Some people will be able to see it in Africa, and a little portion of South America will see this partial solar eclipse as well, or this darkness that I'm speaking of. Doesn't mean that this partial solar eclipse is only impacting those that are on the line of visibility. It is impacting the globe nonetheless. You don't have to see celestial events for them to affect you on a physical, cellular, and molecular level. And molecular, physical, cellular, physical. Physical is a theme for this weekend. Body, exercise, Aries. We're going to be feeling things in our bodies like no other this weekend. It's going to be visceral, and there are no more excuses tolerated. No one is going to brush your teeth for you, and no one is going to do that push-up for you unless you do it yourself. All the benefits of brushing your teeth and doing push-ups will never be gained unless you show up for yourself and practice healthy habits. This partial solar eclipse in Aries is happening around 9 degrees of the sign, which is a decan that is designated to the body. We are finally giving birth here, all of us, into a new physical form. Something has activated and our DNA strands have been triggered. There's something growing, something shifting. The human as we know it will never look the same again. There could be some sort of medical technology that gets released today that quite literally will change the form of the human. I want to talk about Venus, who will be conjunct Neptune at the 29th degree of Pisces, a degree that also signals an end and a birth, and with Neptune being greeted by the lovely Venus retrograde this weekend, and charmingly enough, Venus and Neptune will be side by side one another during this partial Aries eclipse over the weekend. It's pretty exciting to have those two together for this time of revelation and darkness. They will certainly be dampening down the punch that this partial Aries solar eclipse has as its birthright. With that being said, there is a high potential of being completely delusional this weekend and doing it with the intention of survival, because you are literally freaking out so much that you don't know what to do, and so you are completely shutting down instead of taking responsibility for the problems at hand. Aries is a sign about action. It wants resolution. It doesn't want ambiguity. Unfortunately, Pisces is an avoidant sign by nature. It doesn't want to have confrontation. It is totally okay with acting like nothing is happening to the detriment of everyone else involved in the scenario. They're totally fine with ruining their lives. They don't care if they ruin other people's lives. That's kind of psychopathic, and that is a negative side of Pisces. A negative side of Aries would be forcing a solution to happen so abruptly, so urgently, that it ends up breaking people's feelings to a point that they don't even want to associate with the Aries person anymore. There is obviously extremes involved with both of these signs, and we want to be navigating clearly this weekend so we don't fall into either of those extremes. On top of that, we can use this energy to our advantage, this Neptune conjunct Venus energy, because it is in a harmonious connection with the planet Mars. So as much as there's going to be an inclination towards the masculine, considering all the fire in the chart, there is a very balanced energy because Venus and Mars are in a cooperative signature with one another. So I really don't think there is any blaming of being out of balance at this point. In fact, all that's going to occur is out of balance situations are going to be so blatantly obvious that you're going to be staring at them in the face and probably kicking yourself because it's probably something that you dealt with in mid-February that's just resurfacing so that you can fix it and solve it so that you can actually turn into this new being, this new person that has different habits and even looks different. Venus retrograde right now. We are revamping our style. We are revamping our step. We are revamping our talk. Well, I guess that's more Mercury retrograde, which brings me into Mercury retrograde, who will be at the 0 degree of Aries during the Aries solar eclipse. Mercury being at the critical 0 degree of Aries is no place he is not familiar to. And it is also a signature of this birth. I think we're going to have mental notifications in our heads when things are out of balance. It's going to be obvious. This is also supported by the notion that Mercury at the 0 degree of Aries is in a nice trine to asteroid goddess Juno, who has been hanging out around 0 degree and 1st degree point of the sign of Sagittarius, a sign all about the bigger picture and thinking about the future. Juno also has to do with commitments. So that's why I feel like she is supporting this notion that things that are out of balance in our life are going to be screamingly obvious, which is kind of awesome because that will lead to some sort of resolution. And I feel there's an air of diplomacy to this weekend, considering what I've stated, Venus and Neptune coming together and making a nice trine to Mars creates that interesting balance of the male and female energies. And with the fact that the sun will be eclipsed partially by the moon, it makes me feel like we're just seeing the very beginning of something that could go very wrong or the very beginning of something that could go very right. This weekend is definitely going to make things very clear. Last weekend made things clear. This weekend, they're even more clear, and there's at least some sort of direction instead of a whirlpool of nothing, unless you are that type of a very avoidant Pisces or know some people like that. Put down your weapon this weekend. It's not worth fighting. And if you do decide to fight, remember Pallas Athena and have strategy in mind. Keep your energy. If people are not respecting you within proportion of that energetic exchange, that is a sign to let them go and perhaps not fight them. Respect yourself enough to not feel like you have to explain yourself to someone who is disrespecting you. Your monkey mind might be firing off because it is feeling the logical awareness that it is being wronged, and it is trying to come up with a strategy of resolution, and that resolution might not be here right now. Intending to resolve it might be the best thing you can do this weekend. The intention will create a boundary that is loose enough to be fulfilled, but not rigid enough to be avoided. Now, I mentioned Pallas Athena because I spoke about her last weekend, and I spoke about how she has been giving a lot of company to Pluto during a time where no one in the celestial skies beyond Pallas Athena and the moon have been really paying any physical conjunction visits to the Lord of the Underworld. Pallas Athena being the closest point right now in the sky to Pluto says think about her and her strategy and how she's been navigating the underworld. That's why I brought her up. We also want to remember Juno because she's all about commitments, and she's also a goddess that has unfortunately been associated with jealousy. And we don't want you to get associated with jealousy this weekend, but the energy is certainly there. So just be careful navigating the waters. If people want to get lost in the sauce, let them get lost in the sauce. Protect your own energy. And remember, the only person you can control is yourself. And it would be really great if you learned how to control yourself a little bit better, especially from the perspective of your higher self. Kick the ego out of the picture this weekend, potentially. Do your best to, because I think it's going to be really wanting to take center stage. Not to say that you don't deserve it. You deserve to love yourself, but don't become arrogant by over explaining yourself to someone that isn't listening. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of energy in the atmosphere. It's better for you to just keep your energy to yourself if you do have the self-control to do that. I'm not saying don't share with people, but don't force yourself to share and have a good time if that's not where you're at. Just keep it to yourself. Be respectful. Give yourself love. We don't want to explode. There's so much potential for diplomacy. There's so much potential for changing bad habits. There's so much potential in general this weekend. We are in spring here in the Northern Hemisphere. You all are in fall in the South, and it's new. Things have shifted. We are moving with the winds of change, and we are here to love each other and ourselves all along the way. Thank you for listening to the end. I'm Liz Grace Christie. I want to let you all know that I released a new product. It's called the Intuition Kit, and it's a kit that consists of a pendulum mat, and a cute little hand-dyed drawstring cotton bag. I curated all the crystal pendulums in the kits. I hand silk screened the pendulum mats, and I hand dyed all the bags that contain the kits. The pamphlet is a pamphlet that is intended to help you start using a pendulum for queries of your own, for your own mystical research, or for clients, or for own introspection. I'm giving you, my podcast listeners, 20% off with the promo code podcast20, and that's podcast all lowercase followed by the number 20. You can go to my website galacticmythology.com, and there you will see in the menu bar a link for intuition kits. Click on that link and you can read more about the kits, and you can also find the button to purchase them. There is a place to input the promo code podcast20 in the purchase link. Thank you all for listening to the end. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate your involvement, and I appreciate you all for tuning in. I'll catch you next week. Bye.